And we're talking, and I tell her I'm going to Choco's podcast, and I say I'm just telling you, so you know one day when it happens.
To be clear, you're saying this before meeting us or attending the event.
I've only watched you on YouTube, basically.
And what was that first moment when she responded and said, oh, maybe my thoughts made this happen, maybe I did this, here it is?
For the first time, it clicked for me that this happened, but I still didn't understand it.
When did you understand it?
When I caused my first accident, I got hit. In London.
You caused the first accident?
I caused the first accident.
Why would someone cause an accident for themselves?
Then an intense internal struggle begins. I explain it to myself so I can move from the parallel reality I'm in to the parallel reality where I can enter that version of myself that will get me through a certain difficulty. Then everything happened very chaotically because a lot of information came, a lot of knowledge, and suddenly after a certain period of time, that was my true awakening, naturally through God.
Hristo Todorov, by chance or not, you are member number 5 among our members, and you are the 3rd guest in the new season of Explorers of Reality, the 3rd in a row who is somehow connected to London.
With London, yes.
That's the very interesting thing. Besides, you have a personal coincidence with the 23rd because today is September 23rd. But before I give you the floor, I want to ask you something very interesting. Why did you agree to participate?
I agreed because I thought I needed to give something of myself to everyone else. In general, my awakening started a long time ago, but the last year was like that. A lot of concentrated and too much information and knowledge passed through me, which I somehow tried to give to everyone whom I thought, needed it, possibly, or even if they didn't. That's the thing. We often say things that we think people need, but it's just what we think, that's how we see it, and that's what we assume. And the other reason is maybe because I created it myself. It's interesting that 2 or 3 weeks, I remember, before we met in London, even before I knew that you would be coming to London, one day I go out to work, just a regular day, and I call my girlfriend and my child. They're here, and my little daughter is here, and I call them on FaceTime to hear their voices, and we talk. And I tell her, just so you know, because I'm going to Choco's podcast, and I just want you to know, so when it happens one day, you won't be surprised.
Let's make it clear. You said it before.
Before
you met us and came to the event, yes.
I've only seen you on YouTube, mostly on the INRA podcasts, and I've watched many of the others too. But it just came to me one day. Just like that, it came to me maybe a day or two before that, while I was working, and out of nowhere it just came, not even as a thought, but more like a channeling. It felt like I was there with you, already talking. And at the same moment, I remember there was a video with, I don't remember which guest was here, but you always said, write to us.
Yes, I say it every time.
Yes, write to us if you want something. Yes, like that. And then I remembered, because I wanted to write to you, that very soon, we would meet and that I would be a guest on the podcast. And at the same moment, I tell her about 2 or 3 weeks before you posted the YouTube short about London, I tell her that I'm going, that I'll come to Choco, he'll invite me to the podcast, and I'll be a guest on Choco. And she kind of laughed a little, but she didn't take it seriously. I could tell by her expression, even though it's been a long time, we talk a lot about these things, and she doesn't deny them. But at the same time, I see a constant doubt in her and a lack of trust in this whole thing. You know, this path I've taken, no matter how hard I try to break down the information in every possible way so I can reach her, she just somehow put up a wall and keeps blocking me, and I can't. Yeah, you know, over time now I see things are moving toward change, but yeah, that's how it happened. Basically, and the interesting thing was about a week, maybe a week and a half after I told her that one evening
What happened?
I come out of meditation and I wanted to check something on your channel. I don't know exactly what I was looking for, maybe Valia's channel, but instead of the channel, that short popped up with that and underneath, and I'm watching. You had written on the video itself, you know, London on such and such date. I open it and you start explaining, hello, so and so, we're in London. Was it the 7th June? I believe we were in London on June 7th. I was shocked and said, ah. And right now, I can't remember if that's when I already told Antonia. And without even thinking about it, I just bought it for the seminar.
You buy your ticket for the event and come to us. And what were your expectations then compared to...
I didn't have any expectations, to be honest. Yeah, I didn't.
What did you want to get?
Even on the day I came, it was very strange because I woke up and I felt free. I mean, I had no expectations. Everything was a lot. Inside, I felt very strange. Maybe we can say it's like that even now. I had no expectations. I think we talked with you back then, and I said I just came once again to show myself that, let's not show off now. Are you on the right path, or, who exactly determines which is the right and which is the wrong path? But let's say to prove to myself that what is happening to me,
It hasn't happened only to you.
that it hasn't happened only to me, and it's something normal.
Let's clarify for the people who are seeing you for the first time that actually you've been in Bulgaria for 2 weeks, but this time you've decided that you won't be going back to the United Kingdom.
No, for good.
How long did you live there?
Well, 11 years, around 2014. I first left in 2013.
From which city, from which region did you actually leave?
From Pirdop, that is. I left from Sofia region. My departure was again. I manifested it myself. Honestly, it happened to me in just 1 month.
So your whole life, somehow this has subconsciously guided you. Things have happened to you that later you realize were great, that you did them, that you made them happen.
For the most part of my life, you know what's interesting? How much of it is subconscious and how much is conscious? It's just a part of my life. I've been aware that I'm doing this because I really wanted it, so that it could happen to me. Life is very, how should I say, interesting overall and very changeable, constantly changing. I've changed, and in very short periods I've had to, and maybe I've created the need to change myself.
And what was the moment when you opened up to the energy possibilities? For these bigger questions, for that hidden part within us?
Well, everything happened gradually over the years. For the most part, I denied it, and I was afraid. Maybe I lived quite a bit in fear. Not maybe, I admitted it to myself.
What were you most afraid of?
I was most afraid of losing my loved ones, especially my mother, since she is the only person in my life who raised me. I grew up without a father who rejected me and whose family also rejected me, and it even happened to me twice. Maybe I lost it before and they just returned it to me. I'm not sure because I was in Sofia. She was here one night. My aunt called and your mother took her to the hospital. Our hospital was already, how should I say, like any other institution in Bulgaria, right? Brought to ruin.
Yes.
And it had mostly stopped functioning and they had to take her to Karlovo and from Karlovo, but even there, the hospital wasn't in very good condition either. They couldn't do anything even in Plovdiv, and I remember she told me that on the way to Plovdiv. She heard the nurses saying, we're losing her. And from that point, she doesn't know what happened because she fainted and just woke up in the hospital in Plovdiv.
When you said they brought her back, what do you mean by they?
I mean, as far as they are concerned, as much as they are. I think we die very often. I came to that conclusion myself. Then one of your guests, a very pleasant one. He also explained, sorry, I can't recall his name, so many have come, but I won't forget when he said I died and they revived me.
That's Rado Velichkov. He has a book called The Nameless. For those who are hearing about him now, watch the episode with Rado and support him. His book is full of depth and he's a very interesting person.
I told my girlfriend very clearly like that. Recently, I had a more serious conversation and I said I won't stop changing, accept it. Everything stems from the fact that we change anyway, mostly Ivomir. I think I got that from him. If you stop changing, you stop existing, which means that change is inevitable. The question is how you want to make it. Do you want it to be conscious or unconscious? Should you just go with the flow and leave your life to the universe, to God, or to all those forces that move us? Or should you take your fate, as they say, into your own hands?
How do you intentionally change yourself and what does being conscious mean to you?
Well, to begin with, one of the first things, that I did before, since books were a bit of a taboo for me until about 2 years ago.
But taboo, like a boring taboo or just taboo?
Maybe I just couldn't find my own genre, Yeah, I've tried. But since I was a kid, I wasn't really impressed. Maybe I just didn't pay that much attention. One day, just 2 years ago, I started to see. I've always tried over time to somehow look at myself from the outside. Now I can say that I see myself through the people around me. But back then, I was more focused on trying to look at myself from the outside. And I would notice certain flaws, let's put it that way. Things that I didn't like about myself. Basically, for example, I hadn't developed discipline since I grew up with a single parent, and she spent most of her time getting the daily necessities like food, paying our bills, working. She didn't have the time to explain life to me, or even for my mother to explain it to herself. I don't lack discipline. I value seriousness and a man's word. I've always stood by it and never allowed myself otherwise. Yes, not never, but maybe in my very early years. But I saw that it's not right to make fun of people, to constantly insult, to talk nonsense. Even when I came to Sofia, I started trying to speak properly, to refrain from swearing and things like that. And I saw those flaws. I started thinking I need to do something, so I began looking for books and found one about how to be a master of your own discipline. And I started reading it. Now, I don't remember the author's name. The book is in English. It's not very big, about 30 pages. And I started reading this book. And what this guy explains, I see myself in every situation and I go, oh, what's going on? I read that book, I shared it with a friend. He didn't really agree with what I thought. And so, but anyway, that was one of the first books I read in that direction already.
What did you remember most from that book? What did you apply first?
Well, maybe that you need to build the right habits. And how the small things in our lives, they determine the big changes. Not everything that happens gradually. And with I even think there's another book, I came across it somewhere recently, about something I can't remember right now. The author who, has really reduced it to just reading one page from the book today. And, the really, really small things, there it was shown a bit more broadly, mainly about nutrition and how to start building your self-control, let's say. Although by that time I had already developed some degree of it, because, for example, every year I did the Christmas fast, and that gave me a lot of control over myself, over me in general. The Christmas fasts they're a unique tool to use in our daily lives. And that's why we should get away a bit from the typical and, how should I say, from what's imposed, maybe because of the fast. It cleanses you, it purifies your body, it purifies your spirit, it gives you humility, and it gives you a lot of self-control, a lot of willpower too, because it requires a lot of willpower. And if you do it systematically, it's a training for the body and the spirit, which has only positives. I don't see a single downside. And basically, yes, later I read after this book, I was already getting deeper into it. I hadn't mastered the discipline yet, but I had made some progress. And the next books were about how to be a master of my emotions. Because after that, I saw that the problem in society and myself in the environment is that we have forgotten or we are unable to control our own thoughts, our own emotions, our own reactions, basically ourselves. And that was one of the next things I wanted to try to change because I already had the experience from the things I had manifested before, even if not so consciously. I knew deep inside that we create our own reality and that we ourselves create all of this through our thoughts.
All of this that is around us.
Yes, it was around us, but I hadn't realized or understood it yet, nor could I explain it to myself.
And what was that first moment when you started to pay more conscious attention to what was happening around you? And it responded and you said, oh, maybe my thoughts did that. Maybe I did that. There it is.
You know, one of the first moments was in the village at my mother's father's house. And since she was very fond of that house, I could see how much she cared for it. And I really wanted to do it for her, to make it for her. To some extent, because it had been left in ruins, in a miserable state, and I really wanted to fix it up. I was maybe 15 or 16 years old already, and I started to manifest it. And every night I would go to bed. Before falling asleep, I would imagine what I'd do to the house, how I'd change this or that. And somewhere after about 10 years, 15, well, not 15, about 10 years, 11 years, and it happened literally, and back then.
Did you make it?
Yes, I did. My mother found someone close to her, serious, and after a while, I was even in England. She hid it from me again. I knew before she told me. And that's when it first clicked for me, you know, that this was happening, but I still didn't understand it.
When did you understand it? You can already recall such events?
I caused my first accident to get hit in London.
You caused the first accident?
I caused the first accident myself. It happened within a month.
Why would someone cause an accident for themselves?
Well, here, I'll explain it to you now. We were in London, we had moved out. In 2013, I went to work on a farm all by myself. Some relatives helped me so I could afford the plane tickets and have some money because, again, there was nowhere else to get it from. I went to London, and the next year a friend helped me to move from the farm, which was in Midland, to London. He helped me. He had secured a job for me to start. I worked for Amazon. At first, I worked for them as a courier. I went there and now I'm there alone, just with him. I don't know anyone else. The company was pretty big. There were about 28 to 30 of us, and we would gather in the morning before the routes were handed out. These are the areas that each person...
Yeah, who will be assigned where?
Yeah, which post will deliver the people. Back then, a lot of people started scamming the insurance companies. You know, just a little bump for something. You claim neck or back pain just to get some extra cash. I remember because at that time we had saved up quite a bit of money, but since we moved to London and the company we were supposed to start at was waiting for new vans, they delayed me for about 2 months so they could get new vans and give me a brand new one. When they finally gave it to me, I started working with those colleagues, and that's when people started talking about those insurance scams and frauds.
You chose to take advantage of it.
And now, seeing that I needed some financial support, I started, as strange as it may sound, while I was delivering parcels during the day, I began thinking about how someone could hit me, how I could make a claim, how I could get money from the insurance, and so on and so on. This went on for some time, about 2 or 3 weeks. And not even a month later, basically, it happened. A Corsa, I was coming out of a business. From a business area, I was just leaving a business. And there I was coming out onto a secondary road, not a main one. There was a slight curve. I pull out, look to the left, no one there. I look to the right, but because of that curve, I can't see very well, or maybe I did see it back then. But maybe I just didn't see it, however you want to understand it. I start to pull out, and at that moment I see this Corsa flying by. There, the speed limit is 30, but he's going at least 60. I'm trying to get out, and he's coming out of the curve. And since he was going so fast, I don't know if he tried to avoid me, and straight up from his lane, he came into my lane, and I had almost finished pulling in, and he hit me right here. Hit me from the side. But the speed he hit me with pushed the van aside. I hit my head on the side window, but I was fine, basically. I don't know, maybe even the police were surprised then, because when they came, people from the businesses came out and saw this guy got out and ran away from the car. Yeah, I don't even remember if he just waved at me or not. He ran away from the car. The front of the Corsa was completely smashed. He ran away, but they later found him with a helicopter. The car was illegal. There were garages in that area that did tuning, maybe because the car was made pretty fast, and apparently it wasn't legal because it was in the process of some upgrade or repair. He just went out to test if everything was okay, but he pushed it a bit too much, and since I had been building mine for a long time, our timelines crossed. He hit me, people came out, but overall, nothing happened to me. It was just a bit stressful, that's all.
And it happened. He claimed it.
Yeah, and you know what's the most interesting part? Because he didn't have insurance and I tried to claim it, but they told me he didn't have insurance and I couldn't do anything. I contacted an agency that deals with such incidents and they told me there's a fund, like everywhere, for cases without insurance. So we'll claim it there, and if we win, if we win the case, we'll take our commission and you'll get your share. I went through this whole procedure, all the hassle, but in the end, I lost much more than I didn't get anything except the lesson, basically.
Which is the most valuable thing?
The most valuable thing, yes. I mean, materially and financially, I didn't get anything at all from this whole story because we claimed that fund. But the insurance companies do their investigation and they decide who is at fault. In my eyes, of course, he is at fault. But in their eyes, I took away his right of way, and since this fund, at least as he explained to me, every year the budget gets smaller because the state doesn't want to pay for such claims, for such incidents, and they look for the smallest reason just to deny you. I wanted us to talk a bit about...
Yes, I want us to talk a bit about the energy part, because you are someone who started doing meditations and you try, as you said, to do it often, like all your habits, to keep at it until it becomes something regular. How do you define the invisible world that exists alongside ours? Based on what you've heard from us, others, the internet and books, what explanation have you reached so far?
We are unique beings, by the way, in our entire existence, whether it's here or somewhere else. I'm really glad that I reached this moment to understand and realize this, because for about 20 years I was literally resisting myself. I was going against myself to a large extent, and yes, I didn't understand. I couldn't grasp things, the inexperience and the unwillingness to change so abruptly. Even though I have been changing, I've constantly been changing, to get from here to where I am now. Until a year ago, I was lost, to be honest. I mean, lost to the extent that I couldn't find myself or the things that truly belonged to me, because for the past 20 years, for example, I've constantly been seeing the people around me, my friends. Everyone has some kind of hobby, everyone is good at something, everyone does something better than the others, I do a lot of the things they do, but I don't feel it, and I was trying to find myself to understand who I am, why I'm here. For example, from a very early age, since many events have happened to me and have passed through my life, from a very early age I was thinking about why I'm here, what my reason for being here is. We're talking about when I was around 13 or 14 years old, asking myself these questions and wondering. I used to watch with admiration all the movies like Interstellar, that type, about interstellar, about space. I've always been drawn to it. I've always loved watching it at night. I believed in all the mythological things that existed, presented back then in that way through television, like the Bermuda Triangle or other mysteries of the earth that exist. I've always Somehow, I used to look at them with great admiration and a strong belief that they exist.
You saw them more as confirmation.
Yes, they were more like confirmations for me, but it was just the time, I even had a period when I wasn't sure if I was born at the right time because I constantly felt resistance and misunderstanding from others about what I believe and what I think.
That was my next question. How did Christo, who is very curious about these worlds, find a way to connect with the rest of the world that rejects this?
Well, it was very hard for me. It was really hard for me to, how should I say, to connect with people. That's why I didn't have a big circle of friends, because what most people and those around me were interested in, mostly material things, was always kind of uninteresting to me. In everything I tried, believe me, the thing I stuck with the longest was track and field. I've done track and field, volleyball, soccer, karate, basketball. I've gone through these experiences partially. I haven't reached any great heights or stood out in any of them, but I just get to a certain point and then I lose the interest. It's not for me, so I move on to the next thing, and that's how I am in life too. Recently, with my sister-in-law, my girlfriend's sister, we were talking one night until 3 in the morning. I was telling her about this weakness and strength of mine, and she said, "That's so cool. I'm the opposite," she said. Yeah, you see it from that side that it's cool. It is cool, really, yeah, but at the same time, if you look at it from the other side, it's not so great because I'm constantly just jumping from one experience to another without having any ultimate goal in these experiences, just because I'm searching for my thing and I just keep jumping from one thing to another, and that's how I've changed things. I work for a year and a half. And it just happens. I get into an argument, something bothers me. I've started a lot of revolutions everywhere I've gone. Something has happened and there's been a change that I caused because I go somewhere, I see that something isn't right. At first, I put up with it for a certain period of time, but then inside I just can't. It's not because of material reasons, it's just because it's not right, not the way it should be happening. At least in my opinion, not in others. But I push for it and it happens the way I make it happen, and overall, yeah.
And how have you managed over the years to find the balance between continuing to seek out energy-related things and answers, and at the same time surviving physically?
Well, I can't say it's been hard, but it hasn't been, how should I put it? Maybe it's because I just don't give up. That's something that for me doesn't even exist as a seed of an option in my mind, I mean, life, the way it has led me and what I've come here for, what I've chosen for myself, and what I've had, maybe something left over karmically, or even when I was very young, I asked myself, why are these things happening to me? Why am I living this kind of life? And to a large extent, I thought that karma, it gets passed down. And I thought that maybe until very recently, I believed that my ancestors had really messed up in the past to some extent, because it has reached many generations ahead, because we are one of the biggest families in Bulgaria, but we are also one of the most divided. I've always wondered why. I don't know I only know a tiny speck of our whole family, which is our family.
You said until recently. How do you see it now?
Well, now I'm not very sure, but I think to a large extent that's how I feel. I cleared up. I personally tried lately to clear up at least my personal karma to some extent. And now I observe a lot. I've always observed, but now, before, my observations were very superficial. Now they're just a bit deeper. And everything has a certain meaning for me. It shows me different things. I see it in my surroundings, whether it's in the family circle or in subscribe. More personal, I analyze what's happening, and now I have a much clearer idea of why it's happening and the reason behind why it's happening. That's why time will tell, honestly, because there's a bit of a pattern on my mother's side that most of the men there don't live past 50 years old. All of them, I mean, all my close male relatives on my mother's side, live to around 40 or 40 something. And for one reason or another, they're no longer with us. And that's very interesting. I've thought about it for quite some time too. Why? And what is it, because we know that everything has a cause and effect.
And how does the idea of endless parallel realities that each of us experiences resonate with you?
I believe in them.
Because personally, I once had such a confrontation when I learned about this concept. And that was when we talk about the case of past lives, karma, and so on, and the concept of parallel realities that exist simultaneously. Then I said to myself, but if there are infinitely many and we move from one to another, we should already in an instant be able to directly enter the other form, and all of this should remain in space to dissolve.
I believe that this has been happening for a long time. I have come to this conclusion because life has put me through many difficulties, and I have, how should I say, I have my own method to get through them, and it is very interesting. I fall into such a kind of limitation. I set my own personal limitation and I isolate myself from.
What does your personal limitation mean?
Well, I basically stop interacting with the outside reality and with everyone around me. In it and with close ones, I avoid contact as much as possible and literally shut myself off. I shut myself off and a very intense struggle with myself begins so I can overcome it. A certain state, or that's how I explain it to myself. So I can move from the parallel reality in which I am to the parallel reality where I can enter this version of myself that will get me through this difficulty, especially in the beginning. For example, this used to take a very long time because I kind of fall into a depression, so to speak. Often, when it happens suddenly, those close to me don't know what's happening. Because I stop calling.
You disappear for a while.
I disappear just for a while because you see, I have something I've run into, some difficulty, whether it's material, personal, or family related. I have something I need to overcome, to understand, to realize.
For myself.
Yes, to overcome it so I can move forward. And I've developed this method over time. It kind of programmed itself on its own. And whenever I face some difficulty, I end up in this kind of situation. Then comes the most interesting part. I explode.
How do you explode?
Well, literally, people can't believe what's happening. For example, I'll give you an example. I've fallen into a really tough financial situation and suddenly I disappear. I'm working, but mostly pretending. I'm not really here, but elsewhere. And I start looking for solutions to the problem. And I start looking for myself. I'm literally saying it like that. I start looking for myself, trying to find myself. Where I am, where maybe I've already gone through this. It already happened, and I went through it. And I start looking for that version of myself. And the moment I find it, maybe it will take a week or two. The moment I find it, I become a different person, literally. I'm telling you, I become a different person. And in a very short period of time, I fix everything. Everything just falls into place, and I fix everything that needs to be fixed. And for example, my friends often say, you're very strong mentally. How do you deal with all of this every time? Because this happens to me in some kind of cycles. It happens to me. How do you deal with all of this every time? And with these kinds of admirations or questions because in their eyes they don't see a way out of my situation. Maybe right now I can't find it either. And I need to limit myself so I can get out, so you can get out, so I can get out first, right? You know, we take a step back and then 2 steps forward. It's the same method, I just take a step back.
But now it's unconscious already.
Yeah, and then I just take the steps I need to take. But the concept of parallel realities is very exciting for me. How do you understand it? Well, I really liked that series you mentioned and I watched it. I wanted to watch it one more time about dark matter, and everything was shown really well there with a lot of detail, or at least it really grabbed my attention. Then, you know, that's when I realized one of the things that everything flows into, or that we exist only in the present. Past and future essentially don't exist. And from there, it also came to me. From there, it confirmed my belief that, that we simply exist in all, absolutely all variations in which we can exist, unlimited in the universe.
Can you imagine what that is?
Well, I try. I often try to imagine these things, but my brain is limited and can't. I don't just want to imagine them, I want to feel them. You know, I want to feel it inside, but the limitations we have hold us back. Maybe you'd lose consciousness, I don't know. I don't know what kind of state we need to reach. Maybe we need to have evolved spiritually or consciously, so to speak, to really understand it. But I really want to feel it inside, just like I want to be up there to reach it, even though I come from there. Physically, in this existence of mine, to experience that experience, whether it's aliens or flying in space.
How do you feel about it, for example? What's your feeling? You're a sensitive person from what I can sense too. What's your feeling about what will happen in the next 30 years?
Well, a lot of good things.
We imagine an alternative, a fantasy with open doors. What is the best scenario for you?
Right now, I can't say whether everything is bad or good. You know, everyone can speak according to their own perceptions, because if we ask everyone, it will be different. But I think that in the next 30 years, there will be quite a big transition, since right now there is a lot of division. Everything is connected. Separation can't exist without coming together. Some period of time will pass and people will unite. I strongly believe that. I really want things to change globally, not just in Bulgaria.
What would you most like to see change?
Maybe it's for us to be more humane, more aware.
I have the habit from time to time, just like you, without even realizing it, to sit at the computer and start writing down my thoughts about society, about all of us, about my personal matters. I sit down and start writing them, and very often they remain as notes in my docs. I write the date, for example, 17th such and such. I have one document like that, which came to me as an idea. I haven't developed it, but I've titled it. Signs that you are waking up, and what you just mentioned, I had written about it. That when you start to open up more towards your more genuine self, that's what I call it now, towards what is generally considered to be taboo, hidden, strange, illogical. At some point, one of the first signs I've noticed in everyone is that some people around you start to disappear, to fade away.
The toxic environment needs to be
reduced,
eliminated. Because you can't exist, because these people have limited, that's for me, that's maybe the way I see it. The answer, yes, the answer is that they have limited you. They have kept you in this limitation, no matter how well intentioned the other side may be in principle. There will always be this competition between us, to be honest, and it really gets in our way. I mean, it helps us grow, but at the same time, it really gets in our way when it goes to extremes. Maybe that's how I should put it. Since, everyone wants, in general, most of your close ones, your environment, everyone admires you, everyone wants you to be well and for you to, how should I say, succeed. But at the same time, the other polarity appears, and whether consciously or not, they want the other thing too. And that's why very often they treat you in a way where they both want you to be well, but at the same time, they don't want you to be something more than them because that's threatening to them.
It starts to become hostile and aggressive.
It's aggressive for them, yes, because
they can't control it?
yes, I've experienced it myself, and some time ago I still have a very good friend from my town. I'm not saying it's the same, but for example, he was very strong mentally, psychologically, and he encouraged me, he wanted me to change, but at the same time, he didn't let me change in the way I wanted to change. The control, he wanted me to change according to his perceptions, in his way, the way he saw things. And when it happens that way, because I've done it too, I've experienced both sides, you suppress the person and you don't achieve the desired effect because he automatically starts to resist. And that's the thought now. And now the thought comes to me. Just the other day I watched Inception, and there they explained it in the same way, just like when they entered people's minds. When they were creating the programs to enter minds, they explained how the mind works, about the mind's resistance, which is an automatic program, and it's not any different for us. He tries to reach my subconscious somehow through his psychological attacks, but it just automatically keeps fighting and starts. These are, those feelings, the negative feelings of suppression,
Of guilt.
of aggression, of guilt, of acceptance. Even if you know that the things he says, he says them with good intentions, but not in the way they should be said. Not in the way you understand them, yeah.
How do we find that common ground? How can we, on one hand, present our point of view or show the way that worked for us, but at the same time let the other person be themselves and have that be okay?
Well, by letting go of control. Honestly, I'm saying this from personal experience because I had, how should I put it, quite a bit of resistance on a personal level. And one day, just by observing myself in certain situations and after talking twice with my girlfriend, because I have started down this path that I'm on and I want us to walk it together, and looking for a way to, I'm not saying she denies it, but maybe she's just not ready. It's not her time yet, the right time yet. Or maybe she's just finding excuses. She's probably just afraid of change. Like any person, it's normal, and I'm trying to find a way to reach her, to connect with her. But at the same time, I feel brutal resistance from her, like there's a wall, and I just can't break through it. No matter what I do, provocations or normal conversations, that wall remains. And I see that in certain situations, I lose control over myself and I hurt her. But I don't want to hurt her and for her to feel bad. And of course, the expression shows it most of all. You can always rely on that 100%, yes, and on the eyes. On the expression, the facial muscles, they react there completely instinctively and they always show it. And I just see her expression. I see that the result is not what I want. And I see that I'm creating an inner conflict in her and suppressing her. And I don't want that, and it happens once. A second time, and it clicks for me, and at some point I say, what's going on? Instead of finding a way, because the idea is I'm still in the United Kingdom, especially in the last year this happens, and I want, when I come here, for things to start happening according to my understanding. Naturally, but yes, her personal freedom and her, how should I say, her personal choice, her free will, she should decide what and how, now she might not want to, so why should I impose myself on her? And these two things happened. And one day, as I was just going about my thoughts, the thought just struck me, and I said to myself, what am I doing? I call my friend, now that I've realized this, I want to tell her right away because I can't hold it in. That's how I am. If I have something towards someone, I can keep it to myself, but it starts to weigh on me. I prefer to just say it. I want to be honest and sincere. I've always valued that with everyone. Even though very often you face resistance from the other side. So I call and I say it, and the moment I tell her, I say, listen, it's not like that. I'm holding it back. I don't want you to be upset. I don't want you to feel that way. That's not why I'm doing it. With bad intentions, and you just see how her face, her whole face, it's like a weight was lifted off her heart. She just relaxed and she smiled a little and she felt better, not completely, but it was much easier for her. I told her, and then I realized that for a large part of our lives, we think that we control and want to control our life, our events, every single thing that happens to us in life. But we are not made for that. We are not made to control. We are here to experience. Not to control everything in our lives. It's not given to us. It's not something we are meant to do. We take it for granted, and when something needs to leave our life, we just have to let it go. It's hard, that's clear. I mean, nothing is easy, but I try to accept absolutely everything in life, even my loved ones. Even though, of course, I would never wish that on anyone, and I know that this moment will come sooner or later, it's very important, in my opinion, when this moment comes, how we treat the things that are given to us in life, whether it's this cup, whether it's this microphone. Everything that is given to us wants one thing: respect and love. To treat it properly, not to slam it here on the table like you get angry, especially after we've had a few drinks. And maybe we're expressing some emotion, but this table, no matter how much we think it's inanimate, it's actually very much alive.
I think what you shared a moment ago sounds very simple and very cliched, but it actually comes from a deep place inside because you've understood all these things for yourself from all your experiences, just like you said from the very beginning to a large extent. And I think that's very valuable for everyone watching to think about, because in that situation where you felt you started interfering with the emotions and desires of your partner, you stood up and said, I will be honest. In the end, I want to bring it out in the moment and face whatever is in front of me. And at the same time, there are still people who, for 10 or 15 years, keep and accumulate on their backs these little moments that could have come out. And in the end, you put two people together in a room in a slightly different setting, even though they're together every day.
Yes, they still aren't well acquainted.
And they learn about each other, that they have things they haven't told each other for 15 years. And I'm saying it this way on purpose, stretching it out so you can see that it's really better to turn to each other and say it right away.
In principle, I think this is the right way. And even I've helped people around me, close ones and not so close ones. And I've always tried to be honest and sincere, to say things as they are in the moment. Because what's the point of holding back feelings or unspoken words? There's none. It's only a problem, a harm for yourself, because you accumulate every little thing which creates these energy blockages. It gets stuck somewhere inside you and feeds your fear. It feeds your doubt in every aspect. The idea is to free ourselves from these things, to free ourselves from doubt. It will always be there. There's no way to stop it from existing. It will always be there. But when it appears, it shouldn't be able to cloud our mind. It shouldn't be able to change our decision, to push us.
To rock the boat?
to shake, yes, to push us in the wrong direction so that we can be sure in what we are doing. And it's very hard. For example, right now, I realize that one of the reasons I came to the seminar was maybe to prove to myself once again, to provoke that doubt again, to show it why what I'm doing is right. And that's how it is, right? And it really helped me a lot overall. Since then, I've really outgrown that thing.
What was the most valuable thing you took from that meeting?
Well, you know what was the coolest thing that touched me? It happened at the seminar, and after the seminar, I felt like I belonged there at that moment because it was something new for me. And since in our daily lives we always encounter a lot of people with different realities, so to speak, there's always, how should I put it? People always approach others cautiously. They're not so open to be immediately honest from the very first meeting, like we are with each other, so to speak. They always hold something back, not to say something, not to show a weakness, not to get hurt. You know, there are many reasons we create for ourselves, but that wasn't the case. Everyone was super open at the seminar. Throughout the whole seminar, everyone shared everything they thought without worrying about what the other person would think of them, or what they would say, or how they would take it, whether they think you're crazy or not. Later, when we went out to dinner with Dezo, everyone was very open. Everyone shared their stories.
Vladislava.
Yes, exactly.
Everyone was super open. All of you shared your stories. We shared our stories. I mean, for me personally, it was the way it should be. I've always believed in life that things should happen naturally without any
unnecessary pressure.
Unnecessary pressure comes from forcing things, like insisting a meeting or task must happen today just because I decided it. But everything is showing you that this shouldn't happen, but just because you think it has to happen, you end up creating other things and completely different situations happen. If you manage to realize why these things happened and understand them, that's good because you'll learn a lesson, and next time you'll know that not everything has to happen by force. Everything should happen naturally, just like everything that exists was created, and relationships between people are the same. I've always tried to accept people as they are. When I see that our paths with someone are no longer the same, don't overlap or don't go in the same direction. We just need to learn to let go of what isn't ours.
About letting go, maybe a lot of people know it, but now this parable comes to mind. Do you remember? I think we told it. About the two monks who went on a long journey, a young monk and an old monk.
Yes, I think you've told it.
And they set off as they have. A vow in which they are not allowed to touch women. So they set off on a long journey through the mountains, reach a river that is very long and wild, and the weather is about to get worse. A woman is standing there, and as they start to cross the river, the elder takes the woman, carries her across the river, leaves her on the other side, and they continue on. The young one is in shock. 2 hours pass before he finally dares to ask his master, "Master, why did you take that woman? How could you touch her? You broke your own rule." And he turned to him and said, "I let her go back at the river, but you are still carrying her." Yes, that's very true.
Yes, that's very true.
That's it.
Yes, that's very correct, yes.
Yes, that's very correct, yes. It's a great parable because on one hand, it means that in a necessary situation, even if there are rules, you can break them to be adequate in the situation, but on the other hand, you shouldn't carry or attach anything to yourself in this way. This is really what you said about letting go of control.
Yes, it's generally hard. I learned early on, and it's just that the situations and events happen that way. For example, with my best friend, the one I grew up with, and who will probably watch this too, Life just happened that way. We haven't seen each other for about 3 years. I decided that it was already, how should I put it, up to the roof tiles from his constant, how should I put it? I was living in his shadow and I couldn't move forward. And for about 3 years, we didn't talk to each other. 3 years, I hadn't gone to extremes. I had just decided that
You decided to give yourself a little break.
a break, yes. And I said, if it's meant to happen, life will cross our paths again. It will happen again, and our paths will cross, and they did cross after 3 years, right? We started again, just like in the beginning. It wasn't like that, yes, and I have many such cases in my life with people. And right now, I've ended relationships with quite a lot of people. Even in the last year, I consciously shattered my whole reality, my own. I completely cleared, just like you said, the toxic environment around me because I had gotten into it. There's this very interesting story. We were going to Sinanica Peak with a very good friend of mine. And on the way down from the peak, I told him, I said, Checo, I said, come on, brother, he might think I'm crazy, but I said, I think I'm dedicating myself. I'm turning towards spirituality. I made the decision to start studying spirituality. And he was like, I'm more of a philosopher. I look at things psychologically. I'm more drawn to those things. He said, I didn't say anything bad. We just talked about it. And then I went back to London. And the most interesting thing was I got back to London, and after about a month, I have a herniated disc. I have 2 herniated discs on my left side. And I go to train, it starts to hurt a bit, like it always does when I work out, but I didn't pay much attention because it always hurts more or less. Sorry. So I go to train, and one day something just cut through me. I tried some ointments, took something to relax the pain, but the next day I had to get up for work at 6 o'clock. And when I got out of bed, I had never felt such pain in my life. It cut through me so sharply, so much pain. It was a really strong inflammation. Before that, maybe it was just a protrusion or whatever they call it medically, but now it had become a herniated disc. I remember I barely made it to the car to get my belt. I have a medical belt in the car for cases like this to support me. I barely made it to the car. I remember I felt really bad. The pain was so strong that I started to black out. I felt hot and cold. I was like, what's happening? Am I done for? It really got me. I blacked out. I sat in the car. For about 10 minutes, I couldn't get out. I took my belt and then I went back. The car was over 10 meters from the door. It took me 10 minutes to get back to the door. I just couldn't. I kept walking, stopping, squatting. I couldn't. I barely made it back, lay down. It was a real nightmare for me back then. And I called my kinesiotherapist in the morning. He responded right away. I went to him. I stuffed myself with painkillers. I went to him. He tried to do some kind of procedure there to set me free. I had some injections and other treatments that weren't supposed to happen, leaving me bedridden for 3 weeks, feeling neither alive nor dead. Almost nothing. I tried to do some exercises. I knew quite a few, but I had stopped doing them for a while. I tried, but it wasn't recovering, and this went on for 3 weeks, and that was the worst part. That was my true awakening brought on by pain. After I stated consciously that I was already firm in my decision, because until that moment I had always been both on one side and the other. And this already happened to me. In 3 weeks, I lost 6 or 7 kilograms because I couldn't eat. I can't cook for myself. I would order food from time to time. But then everything became very chaotic because a lot of information came, a lot of knowledge all at once. After some time, I went in and deleted my Facebook, deleted all the apps, basically all the movie channels, Netflix, and so on. Things like that made me more aware, and certain things revealed themselves to me. I was left with only a Twitter. Actually, I had deleted it, but then I downloaded it again. Subscribe, and just a Twitter, and that's how it was. 3 weeks of sleepless nights, basically no sleep at all. A lot of thoughts, everything was coming at me very chaotically, all the feelings. I was really scared. I remember I was really scared of the new, of the unknown, of what was happening. And so, little by little, I started to walk the path, even though I had already been through it. The good thing maybe was that life had already prepared me for this from all the experiences I had, and I was just starting to. I started to reflect on all of this. I kept going back in time, looking back, and then I would come out of it and realize things I hadn't realized back then, and that too. And then, that became my reality. My surroundings, I just told some friends about it later. Some understood me, some didn't. I'm not okay with your way of thinking. I'm not okay with the way because there were some who still tried.
And you're one of those people who stated what you think. And when you found support or resistance, you still stood up and said, no, this is what I think.
Yes.
That's powerful.
Doubt has always been there. What we were talking about, because no matter how much you or your loved ones want you to succeed, they never want you to be something more, because for them that's threatening. That's the illusion of competition, which somehow is implanted in us, maybe for centuries. In the beginning, before all this happened, I was constantly meeting with my loved ones around me. There was always this doubt in them about me, and you know what's interesting? It was interesting that I would say something, but he would believe the other guy he just met by chance, but he wouldn't believe me, even though he's known me for 100 years. Maybe because at some point I was wrong or got into an argument where I wasn't right. Right for him, or maybe I was right for myself. Basically, that's how it is in general. And it was very hard. That's why I decided to reduce this circle, to narrow it down a bit. Those who decided to stay, stayed. Most of them disappeared completely. I disappeared from their reality, they disappeared from mine. No news, nothing. And that's when the awakening began consciously, with the synchronizations that haven't stopped to this day.
You tell your story very interestingly, very engagingly. When I saw you, do you remember I told you that, in my opinion, you have the voice of a cartoon character?
Yes, you told me that back then, yes.
And also, what's been on my mind for a while now, please try it, because I'm listening to how you sound on a good microphone. Please just try to record something, to be a narrator for something, for some text. Just read something, your thoughts, news, whatever, because I think it will work out. I imagine you reading a book like an audiobook, not just reading it, but really bringing it to life.
Yes, it's possible.
I can just imagine it.
I need a bit of experience. I read a lot. I really try to read a lot. It's one thing when it's amateur and another when it's more professional.
This season, we're doing something very interesting this season. At the end, I ask a few questions. It's like an experiment with each guest, as long as they're willing. I ask the final questions, and the idea is for you to try to answer in one sentence.
In one sentence, I'll try, even though it's not easy.
Do you want to give it a try?
Yes, it will be a challenge for me because I always see myself a little bit like that.
Yes, I see, but I think you can handle it, and it's very interesting when someone suddenly has to present everything in one sentence. Tell me when you're ready.
I'm ready. Go ahead.
All right. Why are we here?
We're here to make changes. Everything that is.
And where do we come from?
We come from the light and we are children of the sun.
And who are we really?
I'm not sure if I can sum that up in one sentence.
Try.
Well, we are just majestic and unique beings limited in a material body or a material vessel. We have all the potential we need to be what we want to be.
And where are we going?
To where we came from.
If the entire planet Earth was listening to you right now, and you had the chance to tell them one sentence that would stay in their minds forever, what would you tell them?
There are so many, but to be themselves, maybe, no matter how cliche it sounds, and to be kind. To appreciate everything that happens in life and not overlook the little things as they are most important. They shape us and make us who we are. From my personal observation. And after every big thing, Okay, I won't drag it out any longer.
Christo, thank you very much.
Thank you too.
From the bottom of my heart for taking part and for being painfully honest.
Yes.
I hope more of us become like that and follow your example today.
I also hope that all of us will be like that and allow ourselves to be like that because we can. The truth is that everything depends on us.
Because we can.
We can.
Thank you to you as well who watched, and be brave to contact us and write to us to share some of your experiences and realizations, just like Christo did today, because that's the whole point of everything we do. Without you, we wouldn't be able to do all of this and make it happen, because I see it this way. We are one and we complement each other. Only in this way can this wonderful magic happen. Thank you from the bottom of my heart once again.
Thank you very much.